Hey, this is Jim back with you with another SportStream Spotlight. This time we invited Matt Baker from Visua to join us on the show and talk about some of the interesting case studies that he's doing for live sports production, fan engagement, and all the other real interesting projects that Visua gets involved with. Hey, Matt, how are you, man?
Hey Jim, thanks for having me this year. I'm excited, and it's kind of a cool thing you guys are doing for sports production, kind of unique setting. So I'm excited to be part of it. Thanks for
Uh,
having me.
Absolutely. And we put this team together with Visua in mind. I know you guys do a lot in the sports production space.
Yep.
Matt has been a guest on some of our other virtual events like NDI November, where he's using a lot of the exciting technology that we have available here and incorporating them into sports stadiums and venues all over the country. So I knew you'd be a natural. Matt, for our audience who hasn't seen you join this show before, take a
hmm
moment to introduce yourself and introduce Visua.
Yeah. So we are primarily an AV integration firm that we install everything from large format LED video boards to audio systems, digital signage, and we'll talk about today is video production systems. But for the last couple of decades, as you said, primarily we've worked in the sports industry and really the minor league sports. We've kind of created our own little market there and had a lot of success in working with that industry. Um, so yeah, minor league sports, minor league baseball, we've worked in for many years, minor league hockey and minor league soccer stadiums. We do everything from new stadium builds to renovations. And that's really been what Visual has been the last couple of decades. And a
Yep.
couple of years ago, we actually started a company called Virch, which is kind of part of what the trends are you'll see in the sports industry. And it's a remote production company. So with Virch, we'll do remote production for minor league baseball and hockey. This actually past summer, we produced over 2,000 broadcasts for minor league baseball,
Wow.
producing their shows for the MILB app, as well as some of the independent league teams as well, which we'll talk about here as we go throughout this. But so those Visual, AV integration, Virch, remote production, which is the trend of the world right now in sports production.
It absolutely is. And I have to tell you, just as a personal anecdote, I was watching the Met game a few weeks ago, and they went to
Yeah.
a rain delay where they broadcast their minor league affiliate. And across the scroll on the bottom was the Virch logo
Mhm.
doing the production and the graphics over that broadcast. So that was really cool to kind of see that pop up on my TV screen at home.
Yeah, that makes me very proud. We do a lot of the Mets. We do Brooklyn and then Binghamton and St. Lucie. So you'll
Yep.
see our logo all over those broadcasts.
Awesome. So, and then that's the topic I really want to jump right into. You already alluded to it a little bit in your introduction, but there
hmm
are a lot of trends that we're seeing in the world of sports production. It was one of the reasons why we wanted to capitalize on it and do sportstream.us, because even the most seasoned broadcasters are looking to see how they can take advantage of these different trends and what technology is available and out there that allows them to kind of get the best that's available today. And that's why I'd like to kind of bring you on to talk about some of the specific projects you've worked on and how
Yep,
they kind of play into those questions. So why don't
sure.
we start by talking about the one project you did in Lakeland with the Flying Tigers?
Yeah, so my perspective is going to come a lot from, like I said, the minor league sports and kind of that what that industry has had to deal with really since COVID. Um, it was kind of prior to COVID as well, but COVID kind of really ignited the fire of where the industry was going for how they were going to produce moving forward. Because minor league baseball had this big requirement now. Hey, you need to stream all your shows. You need to have X amount of cameras. You need to be doing graphics, all these different things, and you have to do it now when all these teams, all their staffs got cut and they were trying to do things with less resources and operating cost. So they had to find a better way to do it and how to do that. So really what the industry moved towards is that remote production. And that's why we started Bert. So we'll talk a little bit about the Lakeland Flying Tigers, and they're kind of a unique situation because one of the trends above remote production that I've seen lately is you have so many cameras that these teams will put in their minor league affiliates. So the Detroit Tigers will put in their player development cameras. They'll put in their Hawkeye cameras for that advanced stats tracking. And then we'll put in our production cameras, and sometimes we'll put additional cameras on top of that for other unique things. Well, why do we have so many cameras when we can kind of utilize maybe one camera that can do multiple things? And I think
Right.
that's what the power of NDI can do. So with the Lakeland Flying Tigers, we work directly with the Detroit Tigers and their player development team to put NDI cameras strategically throughout the ballpark. So there's about 7 player development cameras in that facility, and then we have about 4 production PTZ cameras in that. And what's unique about that is for production, we can tap into the player development cameras because we can view them NDI on the network. And for the player development, if they want to tap into the production cameras and get a unique view that they didn't get with one of their cameras, well, they can, because our network, our camera is accessible over the network via NDI. So that's exactly what we did with Lakeland. And we're seeing more and more of these affiliates looking to do, because there's less cameras. You got one camera to manage, and you're not having to deal with multiple things being mounted in one spot. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've gone into affiliate back in the day and there's like 4 cameras in one spot doing the exact same thing.
Right.
So that's been a really big thing we did at Lakeland. And going into a little bit about Virch and the remote production side that we did at Lakeland is, you will see that desk right there in that picture. There's a TriCaster, there's a 3-play machine, there is a UI for a bird dog camera in there, but nobody sits in that spot during a game. You might think it's crazy. This literally looks like a ghost is operating their broadcast during that game. And that's what Virch is. They have the ability to access that and control that stuff locally. But remote production, cameras, everything's being done remotely in Wisconsin. So the other challenge that these minor league places, especially there in Lakeland, it's finding space to be able to put an operator and to be able to put the equipment in the facility. How do you actually have an operator doing multiple things? So we can just put our machines, our TriCaster stuff in the rack. We don't even need to have a monitor. We like to, because it gives them control locally to send the feeds to the video board or do anything they need to do locally. But that's been a big trend in minor league baseball, is reducing space for production, because everything is being done remotely now and can be done remotely now.
Yeah.
And what that allows these facilities to do is actually create more space for suites and activation areas that were once these large production rooms can be scaled down, because the equipment's getting scaled. More equipment can do multiple features, multiple things, and can be done remotely. So for Lakeland, that's exactly what we did. We tied in their production cameras and the player development cameras, and we created a small space where they can control things locally if they need to, but everything there, the replay and the TriCaster for the switcher, is all done remotely from our studio in Wisconsin.
That's amazing. You know, it's only a matter of time until one of these minor league ballparks takes the team mascot and puts him in front of the production desk and make it look like, Tony the Tiger is
Mm.
running the show or something, right?
Yeah. Okay. I'm going to tell you one quick funny story about this, because I forgot to add a slide. I'm going to send you a picture of this. It's going to embarrass me about it, so you can put it in post production.
Okay.
But one of the cool things that our team in Fresno did is we have a green screen up in there, right in the production room, because we were able to create that space. And they have a little activation thing that they do, a little promotion in between innings, where everybody in the production room gets off their seat, goes in front of that green screen, and plays Rock Band, and does, like, during a pitching change, is there. And I was there, and I got to be the drummer part of it a couple of weeks ago. But we're able to do that mainly because they have a PTZ camera that's set up in that production room, a little bird dog PTZ camera that's set up right in there, that's always there, and it can capture things whenever they need to on that green screen. So that's another kind of trend that I was going to move into next and talk a
Yep.
little bit about, is bringing the minor league flair into production, which I'm seeing a lot more teams do.
And I know
So
that's one of the things you really wanted to get into with this next case study with the Hagerstown Flying Boxcars.
yeah, so Hagerstown was a new ballpark. So the Hagerstown Suns used to be a minor league affiliate, and then when there was a big shakeup a couple years ago, they lost their affiliate, and then created the Hagerstown Flying Boxcars and a brand new, beautiful ballpark right down right in middle downtown Hagerstown, Maryland. So they built that new stadium this year, and they play the Atlantic League, which is an independent league. But exactly what I'm saying here is bringing that minor league flair, because um, in minor league baseball, right, they only get a certain amount of people that watch these games, and they're required to kind of produce these shows. So
Sure.
what these teams are really utilizing, and how they're utilizing these broadcasts, more than just the baseball aspect of it, you get the diehards that will watch their broadcasts, and then you'll get local fans, and then you'll get the recordings that'll go on the local news. But we're really trying to use these broadcasts as a promotional tool to what's going on inside of the ballpark, because that's really what the goal is to get butts in the seats, get people into the ballpark. So you can use this. We're trying to use the broadcast as that tool. So bringing our wireless band cams into our broadcast, not just for the in-house show,
Right.
and showing the fun of what's going on in the ballpark, not just to the video board, but to the broadcast. Those fun little races that are going on the field between innings. Instead of having a commercial, show that, because that gets butts into the seats. People want to see that fun of what's going on there, because when they see that, then they'll come. As they said, when you build it, when you show it, they will come. And that's
Absolutely.
true. People do come.
Absolutely. And
So,
I'll tell you, we have one of those Atlantic League affiliates here on Long Island as well.
yep.
And what I think is amazing about these smaller ballparks, smaller teams, is how they become an extension of the local community. So they're
Hmm.
always doing these great community drives and fundraisers and being part of the local area. So now to be able to broadcast that and share that with the community that they're reaching out to becomes what drives the attendance in the stadium, their outreach into the local community outside of the stadium, and even a broadcast that it continues to grow beyond that as well.
Yep, very familiar with the Long Island Ducks. We did their video board a couple years ago. They're one of our Birch clients, so their show is all produced remotely from our studios as well. So they do a great job over there, and they're all about the fun as well.
Absolutely, a ton of fun. I've been to that stadium quite a few times with my kids. And now, Matt, we had another case study to talk about, and this is with the Oakland Ballers.
Yeah, so this is good. This is a fun one. So as most of us probably know, Oakland has been constantly losing their sports franchises. They lost the Raiders, and they're about to lose the A's. So the Oakland Ballers, they play in the Pioneer League, which is a small independent baseball league, mainly up in the mountain area. So like Montana and Colorado and stuff. And Oakland Ballers, great ownership, kind of really pushed the idea of this underdog story in Oakland. Okay, like, we're losing all our franchises. Let's build up this community and build some franchise for this community. And that's what they did with the Oakland Ballers. It was a really unique project, because it came to be very, very quickly. They renovated a baseball, which is basically a rec field, in the middle of Oakland. It was kind of worn down, and they really revitalized the area and revitalized that field. And they built a baseball stadium in 2 months.
Wow.
It was very unique, as you can see from these pictures. It's kind of a temporary, those are temporary bleachers, kind of modular systems. The press box is a shipping container. In there, we put a video board in for them, and you'll see in that picture in the far right, that we built that control room in 24 hours. Literally 24 hours before opening night, opening or first pitch, those
Wow.
walls were being drywalled. As you can see, they didn't even have lights. They put string lights up there, but it's what we had to do. And honestly, we couldn't have done it without these technologies that we're putting in. With NDI, we were able to build our VLAN on our switch, and then plug and play. All our cameras were online, boom, just like that. We were able to get the equipment in the rack, and we were up till middle of the night, way late in the night before. But with NDI, we're able to just bring everything in easily. There wasn't a whole lot of testing, troubleshooting prior, because everything just worked. Everything got where we needed to. So that was definitely a unique project. One we're very proud of, and one that we continue to work with them. They're another one of our Verge clients that we produce the show remotely, because you can tell, going back to my point about space,
Right.
they didn't have a whole lot of space. That's,
Yep.
I believe, a 30-foot wide container. You can see standing way in the back, and this is opening night. We eventually put a partition there for him, but that's their play-by-play guy way in the back corner there in the open room. The other guy standing up is their PA announcer. And you
Wow.
got the audio, and then the guy who's closest to us is running the video board, and then you got scoring. So there's not a whole lot of room for a full-on broadcast station running a TriCast or a switcher or a replay machine. So these guys kind of, the only solution is put a production truck somewhere or do it remotely, which has been huge for the industry, being able to do things remotely because of that space. For example, you can do these pop-up stadiums and still produce a very high-quality show
And,
for that. And
and I think that's the thing that you really touched on too, is the flexibility that it gives you. You know, you talked about the efficiency of
mhm,
using the same cameras for the broadcast, for
mhm,
the analysis, for player development, for the coaches. You know, everyone can now tap into the same cameras, whereas
mhm,
traditionally, coach's analysis cam may have popped up in the corner, and then right next
mhm,
to it would be a broadcast camera, and that's where you were talking about four cameras in one location. They all had a different purpose.
yep.
Now with this NDI technology, anyone can tap into them, pull in the video source they need. It's a much more efficient workflow, right?
Oh yeah, definitely. Way more efficient. And I mean, the other thing is the stats, right? Like,
Yep.
there's all these stats and all these things that are we're constantly gathering. Baseball is such stats oriented. I talk a lot about baseball because we did a lot of baseball projects. We're working on soccer stadiums now here, moving in hockey arenas as we get into the winter. It's because some more recent ones. Um, but it's all about stats. Like, what kind of stats are we putting into the broadcast? How do we gather those stats? Where are they coming from? How are we, like I said, putting those in? But it's more than just stats too. Going back to the trend of like, hey, what are the fun that we're showing in the
Right.
ballpark? Because there's a story when you're doing a baseball broadcast or a hockey, or there's a story with the sports, but there's also a story about what's going on in the ballpark. There's a
Absolutely.
story about the team, the franchise itself. So like doing lower thirds that are highlighting the mascot on the broadcast, doing promotional things with the graphics that you're doing. The graphics that you're throwing up right there are that's another huge trend that we're seeing in these shows is more graphics, more
Yep.
lower thirds, more things to tell the story, more than just baseball, what's going all around it, the community. I mean, look at that picture of in the upper corner of Oakland Ballers. In
Yep.
my years, I've traveled to many, many different baseball stadiums. That's opening night of the Oakland Ballers, and that was the greatest crowd I've ever seen. They had 4,000 plus people.
That's
Now
awesome.
the Oakland A's will say that they had more people down the street, but I call baloney on that. I think the Oakland Ballers had more people that night.
Right.
They stayed. They were losing like 9-1 in the ninth inning, and everybody was still there,
That's
cheering
great.
on their teams. Let's go Oakland! What a great crowd that was.
And
So.
that's awesome. And it really kind of shows you the importance of production and the audience that you're delivering the production to. In a
Mhm,
sports broadcast world, you have the in-venue audience, the people that are there at the stadium. You're setting up the digital signage, the scoreboards, and there's a
mhm,
lot of content that's being delivered to those inside the stadium.
mhm.
But that content also has to be delivered to the broadcast for people that are watching at home on their computers or on their TVs. And
Yep.
then you also have the interesting aspect now of social media. How can I deliver this content in short little
Mhm.
tidbits to bring the community into the game and into the stadium for the next game that's coming up next week? So these are
Yep.
all unique different workflows that, when planned out correctly, can all complement each other, right?
Correct. Yeah, exactly. Because it goes back to utilizing kind of the same stuff and telling the same story with the little uniqueness across each platform, whether it's
Sure.
in-house, whether it's broadcast, whether it's social media. But really, I see kind of like the future is, we talk about this a lot, is like, how you interact? How does the viewer interact with the show. More than, there's very interactive features that are being done in-house, whether someone goes into a contest, like a racing contest, or watching trivia and everybody's cheering and watching the cap shuffles. Well, how do we make it interactive for viewers who are home in the broadcast so they get that feel of what's in the ballpark and eventually have their butt in that seat?
Absolutely. And that's a great thing that Visua is doing very well. Visua with the Verge production side of it, a great company to work with for your net sports production. Matt, you guys are based out of Wisconsin, but as we can tell from the case studies you talked about, you work
Yep.
all over the U.S., right?
Yeah, we're all over the U.S. I mean, you got a stadium, we'll be there. We can have somebody there quickly to go do an analysis and kind of discuss your ballpark and how you want to move into the future of technology. So we love to go into an old room, make it new, tear it apart, clean it up. That's what we love to get down and dirty and figure out how to give you the best production. And the other thing we do is we love to think about it from an operator's perspective, because a lot of us have worked in the industry and came from working in the industry, so know what it's like to be in an operator standpoint. So although we're AV integrators and we love technology, we're also understand the operator side. So happy to help in any way we can. We help teams is our motto.
That's awesome. And I wanted to avoid the cliche as much as I could, but since you opened it up before, if you build it, they will come. So
Correct.
reach
There
out
we
to
go.
Visua. Visua can help you out with all your sports production projects. If you'd like to learn more, you can visit them on their website at visua.us. Give them a call at 866-847-8228. Matt, thank you for joining us once again and for sharing some of the sports production stuff that you guys are working on.
Thanks, Jim. We'll see you next year.
Always a pleasure. Thank you very much. Have a good one.